que siempre va a luchar por ustedes, que nunca va a aguantar ninguna indignidad contra ustedes. Cuídense.
Bueno, gracias ahí. Escucharon a
This crazy leftist lady is about to be in Congress, but can't even make it through an interview without crashing out and storming out. We're going to break this down. Welcome back to the channel, guys. We're still, at least I'm still, kind of reeling from the DSA sweep of congressional elections of Zohran Mamdani, the far-left New York City mayor, his allies winning big in the Democratic primaries last night. And I've discovered and learned more that I have to share with you about one of these candidates that Zohran backed and is almost certainly going to become a member of Congress because she won the Democratic nomination and it's a deep blue seat, so the Republicans not going to meaningfully challenge her. And this is, and I'm going to try to pronounce this correctly, but it is a difficult name, so I apologize. Darializa Avila Chevalier. So I'm going to call her Darializa because I can say that, and I genuinely don't mean any disrespect by that. It's just a tough name. So here's the headline, and then I'll show you the video. It is in Spanish, but I can understand it because I did minor in Spanish, coming in a little useful, even though soy gringo. And of course, I'll break down to you what actually happened in this clip, but she rage quit an interview with a Hispanic media radio station because they kept asking her about her insane old tweets that are like genuinely read like Tumblr posts if you were parodying them, but these are now the statements of a soon-to-be member of Congress. So here's the headline from Fox News. Mamdani-backed socialist candidate storms out of live interview when confronted with old social media posts. Radical Darializa Avila Chevalier beat incumbent Representative Adriano Espaillat in Tuesday's Democratic primary for a key New York House seat. So here's the story. A newly minted socialist congressional candidate, Darializa, abruptly walked out of a radio interview Tuesday after being pressed about controversial social media posts that at times overshadowed her campaign. Just hours after dramatically ending the live interview with Spanish language station La Mega, Avila Chevalier won her race to unseat Espaillat. Oh my God, the names are rough today. In New York's 13th congressional district, the heavily blue-leaning seat covering parts of Manhattan and the Bronx. Her victory is a major upset that ousted a 5-term incumbent and chair of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. So that's worth reflecting on. So this radical leftist didn't just take out any establishment Democrat, but a pretty prominent, normal establishment Democrat, which, to be clear, I still think is crazy on a lot of things or not my cup of tea, but she makes him look like practically a MAGA Republican in comparison. Anyway, she just took out a pretty significant person, the chair of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. Now, the candidate, who goes on to the general election in November, where she will almost assuredly win a seat in Congress, has faced growing scrutiny in recent weeks over archived posts. She criticized Democratic leaders, called for abolishing police and prisons, opposed deportations, and made inflammatory remarks about U.S. institutions and foreign policy. I love this because they're like just kind of describing this for a news article, and they're trying to describe it neutrally. And it still sounds crazy, but even this is like watered down. The things she said, and we're going to go over them, are bat insane. This woman who's about to be in Congress. More from the article here. She also held lead protests against the Israel-Hamas war at Columbia University and was part of a campus group that later called for, quote, death to America. Yes, I did fact check that. That is true. She founded a campus group that calls for the end of Western civilization. This is going to be our new member of Congress. Yeah, super normal, insane. Anyway, another source of backlash has been her past remarks about Dominican nationalism, including posts in which she said she did not display the Dominican flag on her social media profile because she viewed nationalism as violent. So she's a Dominican American, and her district is heavily Dominican American. And people didn't love that she doesn't have any sort of like pride about her country or her heritage, or at least part of her country, part of her heritage, because she's also American. And so the actual Dominican community is like, hey, what the heck? And that's what they asked her about in this radio interview where she rage quit. So the remarks have drawn backlash in the heavily Dominican American district she wants to represent, where some voters have questioned her views on Dominican identity and culture. But when multiple radio hosts attempted to let her speak on the issue before polls closed in New York, the candidate shut down the conversation. One host asked her to take the opportunity on the show to address the Dominican community that may feel bad for the things she has said in the past. When another host asked her to specifically address the controversy over the Dominican flag, she said she wanted to discuss, quote, the issues that are impacting the residents of New York 13, and said she was focused on fighting for people who live in in the district. When a third host pressed her again, she interrupted and said, "I am not going to sit here and be yelled at by various people," and then said, "Had a beautiful day," before removing her headphones and abruptly leaving the radio studio. So I'm going to show you a piece of the clip. It is in Spanish, but I'll try to explain what happened here. And that article already gives you an idea of what you're about to hear, but it's genuinely a pathetic crash out. Let's watch.
Como dominicana vuelvo y lo digo. Yo me siento ofendida con lo que yo vi, con lo que leí, con lo que podemos percibir. Necesitamos que tú aproveches este escenario, si lo puedes hacer, no sé, y pidas algún tipo de disculpa al dominicano que no cree en ti o que se sienta afectado por lo que tú has dicho en el pasado. Ya escuchamos que tú te disculpaste en el caso con Kamala Harris. Yo creo que esto es una buena oportunidad para tú hacerlo, para ese dominicano que se siente mal por lo que tú ya en el pasado has comentado.
So she's asking her to address the Dominican community that feels offended by the things she said in the past about the Dominican community. That's my rough translation. Boy, I have lost some of my Spanish, but here she goes.
Yo me siento mal por los tweets en general, y lo que siempre he valorado como organizadora es que nosotros nos unimos, que como una comunidad nos unimos para luchar por las cosas que la comunidad entera necesita. Y sí, eso es por lo que voy a seguir luchando, asegurando que nosotros tengamos representación que...
Pero yo creo que lo que aquí...
Yeah, she just didn't really answer and said she's like fighting for the people or something.
Aquí
so they keep asking her about this.
Fue por la situación de la bandera.
De la bandera.
Eso es lo que más...
Yeah, and the other host is asking her about insulting the flag.
Yo le he comentado que yo nunca he insultado la bandera. Yo soy dominicana.
Y desde la unificación.
Well, so she's saying she never insulted the flag, but they're like, you did though. So, yeah.
Pero una vez, ¿cómo la vaca?
Nosotros podemos seguir hablando de la desinformación que ha regado mi oponente.
Oh, now she's claiming that's disinformation from her opponent, which is not true. It is, in fact, what she said.
O podemos hablar de los temas que impactan los residentes del New York.
And she's saying, no, let's talk about the things that are impacting the residents of the district. Anyway, I'll just fast forward here. They keep pressing her on it and she rage quits.
Aunque a ti no te he escuchado las preguntas, no te han gustado como respuesta porque tú lo quieres basarte en el día de hoy, y hay un pasado que está ahí, mi corazón bello, perdóname.
No me voy a sentar aquí a que me griten varias gente.
Now she's saying, I'm not going to sit here while various people yell at me.
Yo he explicado mi posición. Que tenga un bonito día.
Gracias.
Por favor, entiendan lo que están en riesgo ahora. Lo que tenemos es representación que no ha luchado por nosotros, y hoy tienen la oportunidad de votar por representación que siempre va a luchar por ustedes, que nunca va a aguantar ninguna indignidad contra ustedes. Cuídense.
Okay, she rage quit. She got up and left because they kept asking her about her blatant insult to the Dominican people and community, and she wanted to gaslight them. So that's disinformation? No, she said that she did in fact say that. So I think that is pathetic. I love how she's like, they're all yelling at me. I'm not going to be yelled at, babe. You're with Hispanics. I don't know what you expect. Like, they get worked up and emotional. It's not like anybody threatened her or anything. You're fine. Don't be a baby about it. But she was in fact a baby about it. And so let's go through some of these old tweets that she says are disinformation about her. They're literally just her statements. She posted in September of 2019. She wrote a tweet about what she would do with all the money that she'd get if taxpayers were forced to pay off her student loans. And she said, quote, pay for therapy. Clearly it didn't work. Lead healthier lifestyles. Become bad bitches. Seize the means of production. So openly communist, right? And another person in 2020 said, what would be a better slogan than defund the police? To which she replied in her loving and kind tone, F you, we're going to defund and abolish. You don't get to water down our movements. So she wants to, she at least as of 2020, and again, this is basically the DSA platform that she affiliates with, defund and abolish policing and incarceration and all this stuff. It's just so unserious, so farcically extreme and unserious and just out of touch with human nature and the reality of the problems and that societies face. And she's like, I would never insult the Dominican flag. Like when I said that I don't like nationalism. So she viewed nationalism as violent, and that's why she didn't display the Dominican flag on her social media profile. Well, she's like, oh, I never insulted the flag. Well, clearly you did, first of all, based on what you said, but also based on your past posts. So here's a tweet of hers from 2019. I forgot to get napkins, so I just wiped my hand on the American flag behind me. Okay, just, you go to Buffalo Wild Wings, you got some buffalo sauce in your hands, you just grab the nearest American flag. That's just normal things that totally normal and not insane or unhinged people do. And so she's also a founder of a group. I'll put this on screen here at Columbia University. And here's what that group posted on their social media, the group that she founded. We are Westerners fighting for the total eradication of Western civilization. Good grief. We seek community and instruction from militants in the global South who have been on the front lines in the fight against tyranny and domination which undergird the imperialist world order. I find these types of folks unnerving and scary because they seem like they could be the next person who you end up reading a manifesto that they published right before doing something horrible when they start speaking like that. Like, that is not just a critique of American foreign policy or anything like that. That's pretty radical and unhinged stuff. And I actually call me crazy. Obviously, it's deeply imperfect and has had to improve and evolve over time. But I think the fundamentals of Western civilization are beautiful and inspiring and revolutionary in their own right? The principles and values of human freedom and free speech and limited government and rule of law and all of these things. And yet she founded a group that wants to eradicate them entirely. But maybe, I guess it really wasn't that long ago. It was like 5 years ago. But you could say, well, she's grown up. She's changed. She's not the same person anymore. And yeah, no. So here's a clip of her from the actual campaign where she says, Darializa says, she wouldn't even want to deport murderers or rapists. Listen to this clip.
There are cases in which migrants to New York have committed violent crimes, including murder, in this district. Under normal circumstances, undocumented defendants charged with crimes go through the system, and if convicted, they get deported before or after serving time. Ms. Chevalier, you recently said on WNYC Radio that defendants who commit crimes should not be deported after serving time. Why is that?
Because we have a criminal system.
What?
It's an imperfect system. It's an imperfect criminal system that I've been critical of, but we have one. And if we truly believe in a system where we don't have double jeopardy on the basis of where someone was born, then we cannot also have a system of punishment that is unique to people who were born elsewhere. We need to make sure that if we really value equality in this country, that we are treating people equally, regardless of where they were born. It cannot both be that a person who has citizenship is tried and convicted in one way, and a person who does not have citizenship is tried, convicted, and then forced to also endure another type of punishment on the basis of where they were born.
What? I'm going to try to translate that for you guys because I feel like it might have gotten lost in translation a little bit. What she's saying is that it is unfair to criminally prosecute someone who committed a horrific crime like murder or who is not a U.S. citizen. So either an illegal immigrant or a legal immigrant who's here on a green card or on a work visa or something like that, and then punish them in the criminal justice system and then say that they've finished their jail time, deport them afterwards. She's saying we have to let them stay in the country even though they murdered or did whatever crime, because otherwise that's treating them differently than citizens. And that's a discriminatory system of justice. Yet, no, it is treating them differently because they're different, because they're not citizens of our country. So they're guests in the country, and they've committed a horrific offense against our society, and so we show them the door. There's nothing controversial about that. There's nothing unduly discriminatory about that. It's discriminatory in the sense that it distinguishes between different kinds of people with different statuses and treats them differently accordingly. But that's saying it's like discriminatory that I can't be hired as a doctor because I don't have a medical degree. Well, no, I don't have the prerequisite status for that. So of course I'm treated differently based on a status That's not the same thing as a two-tier system of justice. It's not like, oh, well, if a Hispanic person does this crime and they get 10 years, but if a white person that does it, they only get 5 years. That would be a two-tier system of justice. That would be wrong and evil. But simply treating non-citizens differently than citizens is just called having citizenship. Like, this is such an unserious and out-of-touch person. And even if you're somebody who's generally supportive of legal immigration, like myself, and who wants to see all immigrants, even illegal immigrants, treated with due process and fairness, this ain't it. This is very much not the way to advocate for these ideas, because you sound deranged and crazy. Yet this is about to be one of the new young starlets in the Democratic Party who's going to most likely become a member of Congress after the fall elections. Yeah, we might be cooked. Like, sorry, y'all, I don't know what to tell you, but this is absolutely insane. The fact that Zohran Mamdani endorses these people, I mean, this isn't surprising because he is just like this. He was his entire career, and he's kind of masquerading now as a semi-reasonable guy because he's putting on this polished presentation, but he was an unhinged radical his whole life that was just as extreme and communist as all of these other people. And so this is who they are. The Democratic Party is facing an insurgency from these folks. And frankly, if more of the semi-normal Democratic establishment are chased out of office by this kind of candidate, then they will have truly only a very radical and extreme and hostile to the very foundations of our country and common sense alternative to offer to the MAGA Republicans and all their chaos and insanity and extremism in their own right. And that's not a good place for America to be in. It's just not. That's my take. You guys will have to let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure you're subscribed if you aren't yet. Hit the like button before you go, and we'll be back with more real soon.